There is one book that I have found particularly hard to understand, and that is Martin Heidegger's Being and Time. Sein und Zeit in German. I've tried for a long time to read it, and in general terms I think I do understand it, but the specifics have repeatedly defeated me. I've included here some of the major quotes that I found the most problematic as I was reading, and if someone out there could disambiguate Heidegger, I would really appreciate it, especially as he relates, as I said, to being in time. So what I've done here is I've included a few of the quotes from the book, and I've concluded with a quote from another philosopher. First, I've included the quote that I find the best summary of what I understand, and it does come, as I said, from the book itself, Being in Time. And Heidegger says this: "If I take death into my life, acknowledge it and face it squarely, I will free myself from the anxiety of death and the pettiness of life, and only then will I be free to become myself." That seems to me to be a great capsule of the book, and it's a clear enough quote that I understand exactly what Heidegger is saying. And although I don't think I've accomplished it, I certainly can see the goal, and well, maybe goal sounds too teleological, but I can understand exactly what the implications of that would be for the way I live my life, and I think that is a good aspiration, and although I haven't achieved it yet, I do work towards it. Here's the second one, and I find this a lot harder to grasp. To think being itself explicitly requires disregarding being to the extent that it is only grounded and interpreted in terms of beings and for beings as their ground, as in all metaphysics. I mean, my mind just rebels at this point and says, what? What is he talking about? And I think, as I've said in some comments that I've posted to various videos, it could be because I've had too much analytic philosophy. I don't know, but most of the courses I've taken have been in analytic philosophy. And in analytic philosophy, what you want to do is break down the parts of this passage into their premises. Okay, here's another one. Before considering the question that is seemingly always the most immediate one and the only urgent one, what shall we do? We ponder this: how must we think? For thinking is genuine activity, genuine taking a hand, if to take a hand means to lend a hand to, the coming to presence of being. I mean, I've tried that in English, and I've tried it in my really bad understanding and rudimentary understanding of the German, and I still remain totally baffled by that passage. So if you could tell me exactly what the text of this would be if you just did it in another kind of English. Okay. Dasein is a synonym for being, and I know that it's a being of a certain kind, and I'm not going to go into the depth of it here, but Dasein constantly is. It's not yet as long as it is. It also already is its end. The end we have in view when we speak of death does not signify a being at an end of Dasein, but rather a being toward the end of this being. Death is a way to be that Dasein takes over as soon as it is. I mean, in probably rudimentary schematic terms, I do understand that passage. But I think there's a lot of nuance that I am just not getting. It's going over my head. Here's another one. Death is the inmost, not relational, certain, and as such indefinite possibility not to be bypassed of Dasein. As the end of Dasein, death is in the being of this being towards its end. Again, I think I do get the rudiments. And to me, they do, in some sense, some of the passages seem repetitive. If my original quote is valid. And, I don't like to admit defeat. I like to just figure things out for myself. But on this, I'm just going to admit defeat. And I'm going to ask about this possibility, which may be a heresy, but I've included a quote here from Robert Scruton, who is a British philosopher. And he says, his major work, that is of course Heidegger's, Being and Time, is formidably difficult, unless it is utter nonsense, in which case it is laughably easy. I am not sure how to judge it, and have read no commentator who ever begins to make sense of it. Yeah, and as I said, I've read the commentators and I've read the text, and I'm still defeated. So if you know more than I do about this, and that doesn't take a whole lot in this case, could you help me just make this less inscrutable? And if you could explain it in words that, just an ordinary, average, reasonably intelligent person could understand, and I would really appreciate it. In other words, if you could disambiguate it in terms that are clear and concise, that would be great. Because I really think there's something here, a lot here probably, and I don't like it when I don't understand nuances and I don't get something that I should be getting. So if you take time and do this, I would really appreciate it. If not, I'll just go back to reading it myself and trying to work my way through it. Because I've been doing a study on this as part of a study on death and writing about death. So I've reread Ernest Becker, and Ernest Becker uses see, you can tell I'm from analytic philosophy because my default is to say Wittgenstein instead of Heidegger. Sorry. But I understand Becker, and I grasp him when he talks about Heidegger. But when I go to the primary text, when I go to Heidegger himself, I get lost again. And so I'll either have to take Becker's word for it, or I'll have to find some other way to get through this. Thanks if you take the time with this. Take care. Talk to you later.